Hey, I'm Mac. I'm Tarek.
I'm Patrick.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Max.
And we're Jurassic Battlefield.
Jurassic Battlefield is a game where you defend Earth in a button-mashing, multiplayer, cooperative, destroying, head-smashing, Earth-defending blast. And you're a dinosaur.
Yeah,
Ship.
Alright.
So instead of controlling the ship directly, there are different stations in which each player can control one aspect of the ship. There are 8 stations for moving the ship, 2 stations for guns, and 1 station for the head and 1 station for the tail to whack enemies in a dinosaur-like fashion.
So the basic design of the game, we use Maya, we use Maya to model our own things. So we modeled our own ship, our Brachiosaurus ship. We modeled the parts on them, all the player astronaut characters and the station computer systems. We got a few assets for like the enemies and asteroids and bolts. But besides that, I modeled it ourselves. We have our own physical health bars that shrink as things lose health, like the enemies and the ship and the players themselves, because enemies can come inside your ship and damage your players and kill them, or enemies can shoot your ship from the outside and destroy your ship that way. And you can in turn deal damage to the enemies when they're in the ship with a melee system we have. We also have a tiled background system.
I can talk about it. So we used, it's just called Tiled, and we created a tiled background using a JPEG image, and then exported it via Tiled to Unity and adjusted it to fit our gameplay. And then Mac added the nav mesh. That's basically it about the tile.
So to go further into implementation, like everyone else, we used Unity because it's really nice and simple, and I already had some experience with it. We also used C# scripts like everyone else probably. But just to get into a little bit of the nitty gritty for our game wanted to use physics, but it also wanted to use parented movement, and Unity doesn't like that. Basically, if you have physics put onto objects in your game, they completely ignore the movement of hierarchy. So we had to come up with a really creative solution to make it so that our ship could move, and then we could also have a different moving axis for players moving inside that moving ship. So what we did was we made a puppet ship way off in the distance so you can't find it, but it controls all the values for local movement inside the ship. While our real ship that you see with the camera, that one controls how the ship moves, and we just copy over the inside movement from the puppet ship. In addition to that, all we really did was we used a bunch of trigger systems for our stations and physics for our movement. Now Max is going to talk about AI.
Yeah, so the main aspects of AI in our game are navigation, filtered randomness, and just the attacking of the enemies. So with our navigation, we use nav mesh, which is something in Unity. So you have a plane, which was our background, and your enemies can travel along that plane, and you can give your agents, which are the enemies, targets, and then you can also set up static boundaries that you need to navigate around. And so that was the navigation for the enemies to try to catch the player ship. We also used filtered randomness for spawning. So we had 10 spawning locations around the ship as it's moving, and we used filtered randomness to make sure it didn't look like the game was cheating or showing up in the same place too much. And then pretty simple with the attacking of the enemies, shooting. We used some randomness to so instead of shooting once every second, we shoot once every time period between half a second or 2 seconds to make it look a little more random. And then one more thing about the AI, when one of our enemies tries to, we call it the sucker. He gets onto your ship and then gets inside of it, and then it's kind of like a mini melee battle inside the ship. So the enemy basically runs after the nearest player inside the ship, and for that navigation, we just had the enemy track the player using what was like just a vector interchange based on where the
It
player is.
searches for the closest game object with a player tag.
Yeah.
So, I guess I'll talk about some of the problems that we had. Well, first we used Unity Collabs beta so we could all share our work. But some of the problems that we had, so the first thing was trying to get collidable walls within the ship was a real pain. So we kind of scrapped that because the whole puppet system made it a lot more difficult to do that. And then the puppet system also kind of was difficult to work with at times. In hindsight, if there's a way to figure out how to, I guess, how to make a ship where we don't need a puppet system, that would be ideal.
Like maybe for movement, you need physics or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, so those are two issues that we had. Then with the input manager, there were just times where we had trouble.
Moving 2 players at once, not all controllers working, NAT compatibility issues.
Yeah, but we figured it all out, so it's all working now. Then I think the other problems are more with our wish list, what we would want if we were to continue working on this project. So we would have wanted more ships, I guess, more designs, and then also a more dynamic head and tail. Right now it kind of just swings like this, and we kind of wanted it more snake-like, I guess, but you'd have to pay for that, so it's more like this. And I think lastly, just sometimes we had merge conflict issues because we're all working together on one scene. Other than that, it wasn't too bad. Yeah. They had no problems with AI implementation, right? It was all good.
Yeah. So Zach's going to go into a demo.
Here's a short demo of the first level of our game. These are first-time playtesters who are just learning how to play. So our game is controlled using 4 Xbox 360 controllers. You move around the ship using the left stick. You can control the thrusters by mashing the A button. Guns are controlled by mashing the right bumper while aiming the right stick. And the head and tail are also movable. They're controlled in a similar fashion to the guns. So the player's goal is to find their way to the exit, which is generally to the north. However, they can't just power forward towards the exit. They have to avoid several asteroids that are in the way, each of which deal a fourth of the ship's health and damage. So the players have to make their way to the exit while avoiding these asteroids and being shot by these purple enemies called shooters.
This is not our first round of playtesting. As a result of previous playtesting, we did things such as sped up enemies, resize the bullets to make enemies easier to hit, increase enemy spawn rates, and playtesting even introduced asteroids, as users were looking for something different than just AI that was trying to attack them.
In this level, a new enemy type is introduced. This enemy is called the Sucker. This enemy latches onto the hull of the ship and invades the interior. The Sucker targets the closest player and starts attacking them. The player can fight back using the B button while facing the enemy. The Suckers die in 3 hits from a player, and the player dies from 4 hits from a Sucker. The remaining gameplay footage will be the new players attempting to make their way through Level 2.